Hey, thanks for tuning in to Cropster's Coffee and Technology podcast. In the 21st century, company culture and work-life balance are front and center of the coffee and tech sectors. In this episode, we discuss what it means to have a healthy company culture and what it takes for businesses to evolve and define their company culture. Who knows, we might even discuss shorter work weeks. Grab a coffee and sit with your team as we discuss the most humane parts of a company's culture in the coffee and tech industries. And be sure to follow or subscribe to this podcast on your preferred podcast platform. So Norbert, you are quite the entrepreneur. I don't think there's any denying that. Quite the entrepreneur in tech, but also in coffee, giving Cropster is a coffee company. And I'd really love to spend today discussing a little bit, kind of, taking a little bit of a different take on what we've been discussing in the past, but talking about business culture in the coffee and the technology sector. Two different industries, but very similar in terms of what the meaning of, business culture is and, the value of work-life balance. And, I really want to hear your take on that, you being a founder of a tech company, and what that means to you.
Cool, Nick. Well, this is a very exciting topic, and I think it's there's a lot to say in general. I'm when you say, hey, I'm an entrepreneur, I think so. Yes, I am, but this was not what I set out to do in that sense. Like, I want to be an entrepreneur. It's like it came together, and that's kind of the answer, I would say, is how the coffee industry reflects on me and how business in coffee works. It kind of comes together. It's different than in other industries where you have to be extremely strategic and extremely well funded and extremely, educated or in a certain sense connected. I think the coffee industry functions a little bit more, or at least the specialty coffee industry. Let's focus a little bit there, where I have a little bit more experience. Specialty industry is more like a family, really. And, in families, there's all kinds of different places and different integrants and different people. So it's, and then in general, it's a warm community. And that was extremely important for me to see, because that's what I was looking for, applying technology in an industry or in a sector where it can make a difference and where it's a pleasure to work with or work in. And that's what I think what we found. So I have friends working in other industries where it's more cutthroat and more maybe aggressive, or where different values are more on the daily agenda. And I think with coffee we are truly blessed and fortunate to be here.
Yeah, fortunate to work. The people in coffee are generally, I would say, more progressive and aware in the sense that there's more to the business than just the profitability, which is a very important part of the business. But there's also this understanding of, work-life balance, the employee happiness and whatnot. And this is also interesting because you and I have a generational difference. And I think this is something that is very, very, I can relate to generationally, because this is something my generation discusses a lot. But I really want to know on your end, when you first started Cropster or you first got into, your business, what was the general business culture like, for your generation, and then how is it, like, how did it evolve to what we have today, where it's, the kind of culture we have now?
Right. Well, I think there's a few different aspects here. So one is specialty coffee is about passion, and all the people I have met, and it doesn't really matter what generation they are, they share the same passion for the product. They want to taste, they want to dig deeper, they want to know, they want to connect. And that's why it really doesn't matter. I speak to people who are in the industry for 50 years, and I speak the same way to people who are in the industry for 2 years or a year. It doesn't matter. If you share that passion, there's something you have in common. There's something you can do together. So that's I would say that's a wonderful entry into an industry. And
Yeah.
then the second part, which you say in terms of like, well, work-life balance, that surely depends a little bit where you live and how you grow up, what is important, as there is more than, that I think there's different generations valuing different things and also having different experiences.
Mm.
Um, and also it depends where you grow up. When you grow up without much financial backing, then the financial stability is more important than
Mhm.
maybe uh, um, being happy 8 hours a day, 8 hours in a day. If you
Mhm.
can be happy the rest of the time. To me, that's different because it's not an 8 to 5 job. It's a or 9 to 5 or whatever you say. Uh,
Yeah.
we work because I mean, we want to do what we're doing. The first, I would say, 8 years of Cropster, I didn't look at my calendar at time. I just looked at my energy. That was more important. Like I knew
Mm.
that if I don't take care of myself and my body, well, I burn out, and that's it.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
just want to make sure that I can survive the ride,
Yeah.
and that just I mean one of my first measures was keeping the Sunday free of work,
Okay.
and that I could do fairly easy. Not immediately. So the first few years, we worked 24/7, maybe with a few days of vacation here or there during the year, but very limited.
Mm.
Then I realized like, well, I can't take that. I need to focus on my Sunday. So the Sunday was off, which means like you have a really Saturday evening and a nice Sunday, and that worked. And then I wanted to reclaim my Saturday, right? And that's what I do as much as I can. So really, a weekend without the pressure to having to produce.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that I'm not working sometimes on a weekend, right? If
Yeah.
sometimes there's a Saturday where it's like I want to finish this project, I want to run some numbers, I want to do some things, but it comes from a different place. It comes from a place of I want to do this, and I feel my energy level is high enough. I can do it, and I will not lose my next week. That because that's problematic, right? If you work on weekends and then you're tired on Monday, it doesn't really work.
It defeats the purpose.
Exactly. So,
Yeah.
and I think
Yeah.
there's a lot of that. And then of course we all listen to certain other podcasts helping us understanding that balance in life. What is
Yeah.
important? How to gain energy, and not everything is business, and that's quite interesting when you start doing a little bit less here, a little bit less there, or also I mean, I'm super fortunate having so many talented team members, right? We have such a fantastic team of employees
Yeah.
and partners. Everybody chips in. Everybody is doing their work, and that
Mhm.
means I can. It doesn't mean I can step back and do nothing, right? But I
Mhm.
also know that, well, if it's time to rest, if it's my evening, someone else takes over.
Mhm.
Especially
Yeah.
if it's about like customer support and customer service.
Yeah.
Um, and also, I mean, I also want to look and reflect a little bit on our client relationship.
Yeah.
We it's I always mention that when I talk to other of my other friends or other people in some other industries, like we really have more a partner relationship with our customers than a typical client
Mhm.
supplier relationship.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we want to be very professional on the supplier client relationship, right? Because that's the
Mhm.
promise. But
Yep.
we also want to stay very approachable.
Yeah.
Most of our customers know how to reach us directly. We have, there's emails where we get back to them. There's phone numbers people can call. There's people know us from trade shows, and I'm always happy. So sometimes I get those phone calls like 10 years, 8 years later, like, "Oh, Norbert, I've talked to you at this trade show, and now we're getting a new roaster." It's like, this is fantastic. I'm not
Yeah.
the right person anymore to talk to, really, because there's other people being more efficient and better in supporting you. But taking that 5-10 minutes to reconnect is wonderful. That, that fuels and that fuels my heart, and uh,
Yeah.
lets my soul bloom, I would say.
Yeah, but I mean, also on the flip side to that too, like I feel like being in coffee, there is an understanding too, though, that hey, this company and its employees has they have a life as well, and if people want reach out, for example, on weekends and we're not by our laptops or computers. Fortunately, I do feel like a lot of our clients and just the industry in general, there is the understanding like earliest they might get back to me is Monday, and that's okay, and I'm totally cool with that. And
Mhm,
that's I guess a fortunate part of this industry and professional culture, I would say. Um, but it's funny, because I when you going back to what you were saying about knowing how much when to back off a little bit and rest before you overdo it. It's something I think that has to do with passion, though, and for me especially, I feel that same way. Like I'm so passionate about something that like I know I could literally do this all day.
mhm,
But it is important to understand, when is it too much before it's too late.
right.
So that's it's super interesting. Um, to kind of I want to switch gears a little bit to the idea of leadership in a business culture in this industry. What would you say? You have two other business partners. What would you say as part of being a leader in a company that's like Cropster? What does it require of the business owners to be able to create a healthy work environment, a healthy business culture, not just now but in the future as well, and fostering that culture?
Mhm, mhm. Well, if I would have all those answers, I would I would be very lucky.
Well, from
It,
your experience,
yeah, of course. When we're trying very hard. First of all, I think it's important to have a direction and have a clear strategy of where things are heading, and that's not always easy, especially when the company is growing and changing and adding new products, because that influences um, how clear the strategy can be communicated, especially when you start something new. Things are not that clear. Once they settle more and more, of course, there's more clarity. But that's, having people like being on the same side. There's a
Mm,
communication culture. We have a general open door policy. It's it was more effective, I would say, 4 or 5 years ago, where we had less employees, and it was
mm,
really easier for us to attend to those few interruptions a day. Now, now I'm sometimes in meetings all day, or in for some stretches where, like, yes, I want to talk to you, but not right now. Can you come in 3 hours, or can we talk in the afternoon?
mm,
Then again, talking same day or very very near to when someone wants to talk, that usually can happen. So
mhm.
if something is really urgent, we can communicate, and I think that communication is one of those things which I value most. Um,
Yeah. Then let me put a little twist on it too then.
mhm,
How has now that with remote work and not just in our company but
mhm.
around the world, like how does that affect the dynamic now of communication and overall, work culture? Because I'm sure it's changed.
Yes, of course, and I think I think it hasn't really changed in a way that there's no communication anymore. It's
Mm.
just a little bit different, and I think you know that from experience. If you want to reach me in, I would say, 8 out of 10 cases, you can dial through pretty much straight away, and if you look at my calendar, then you would even know what times are good for me. Um,
Yeah.
but if you don't, and if you don't push it, because my mornings are usually very busy. So if you go later in the day, the more I can take those calls, right? And those are
Yeah.
things which in the office you just would walk by, look through the window, and say, "Hey, eh, or see if is the door open, right?" So right
Mhm.
now you have to check in with via chat, or just call and see what's up. And I think that has changed, so that um, and of course. it's not always. Um, I would say if you have a very clear question of what you need answered, you can just shoot an email or a chat message, and it's like, "Hey, this is I have this question." But sometimes it's about more. It's about just communicating feelings, communicating what's going on,
Hmm.
and that is usually easier over a drink or over a piece of chocolate in my office, and that's right now more difficult for sure. And that's
Yeah.
that's also more difficult not only because of remote work through the pandemic, but also because we have more remote employees. So
Mm.
they're just not here.
Yeah.
And as you know, I mean, we try to bring everybody together in a certain rhythm, so that every 4
Yep.
to 6 to 8 weeks we can sit down, have a meal, have some enjoyable time, and do those conversations over a coffee. And again,
Hmm.
we're back at the keyword. We are in the coffee industry, and coffee unites us. And coffee is, I mean, that's what I grew up with, honestly. When I was 14 and you wanted to talk to somebody, I was like, let's go for a coffee. I did
Yeah.
not drink coffee until way later in my life. But
Yeah.
I went for many coffees,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
as a saying, right? And in the end of the day, I had a drink, something else. But
Yeah.
so I think that's where the industry is and goes. Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's funny too, because even, I think coffee, it goes beyond like the idea of the community
Mhm.
idea goes beyond like the workplace as well. Even for Latinos, for example, you go have a coffee with your abuela on Sunday afternoon or night, little pancito,
Mhm.
and all is good. Everybody's at the table talking, gossiping, whatever it is.
Right,
And
right.
that's the beauty of coffee, though. It's like it puts everybody together.
Absolutely, and that's I
Yeah.
see that's where a lot of times the coffee is not the main actor, but if you have specialty coffee on the table, it can even bring a more enjoyable atmosphere to the table, which then enables a more enjoyable conversation, in my opinion.
Yes, absolutely. And if it's good coffee, everybody's not complaining, oh, it's too bitter, or there's too much sugar, or whatever it is, right?
Yes.
Like what you've heard so far? This podcast is brought to you by Cropster, a software solution that connects coffee professionals from origin to roasteries and cafes around the world. Whether you produce, trade, roast, or brew coffee, Cropster products will help your business take that next step. So, in terms of so I was listening to a podcast the other day of another podcast, and they were speaking a little bit on this topic as well. One thing they touched on that I thought was really important or interesting that I'd like to hear from you as well is this idea of ownership, and not just of the business owners, but ownership within the company.
Mhm.
In their case, they had their own thoughts and opinions on it. Some for, some against. But in the sense that there's sometimes certain projects or employees that it requires their full focus, and they call it ownership. And I'd love for you to explain on what that means in terms of not just owning a certain project or owning a certain tour, owning something in the company on a micro level, but how that helps foster you know, a more general, wider, healthy company culture when employees feel like they're not just a robot, but they feel like they're a part of something. And that
Yeah.
goes to the idea of ownership, right?
Yeah, I think you said it. That's one of the key points. We don't want robots. We don't want anybody to just be here
Yeah.
and complete the hours they committed to. It's not about that. It's about something more, and that keeps them here, keeps them interested. That's the same for me, by the way. So I think that really includes everybody in the company. Just because I'm one of the leaders and one of the founders does not mean that. I have it's automatic that I have all the ownership. I also on I would say every year I look at like what are the projects which keep me interested. What are the parts I want to further? What are the things I'm good at, and I can really bring something new or something good to the table. And what are the things I'm not actually very good? I might have a certain responsibility. I might do it because of that reason. And that's
Mm.
okay. I think there's a certain mix of, I mean, if you look for the 80-20 rules, I would say that's already fantastic. If you only do 20% of work you kind of have to, and 80% you're really passionate about, you found the mother lode. This is exactly what you what you should do, in my opinion.
Yeah.
um, it's about like self-fulfillment in a certain sense. It's about making a difference. And it's really a fairly, I wouldn't say fairly new concept, but it's a concept we see more and more, where people are looking for, hey, I want to do something meaningful.
Mm.
And giving meaning to the work means there's certain control, there's certain understanding of why do we do this. And that sometimes even circles back to, well, you have to find your own meaning in a certain at a certain level. So it's not all given from top. And I understand that big corporations with many levels of employees and layers and structures, they might operate a little bit different there. But
Mhm.
also they work really hard to 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 see, can they give ownership and certain control and a certain possibly even flexibility to their employees. Um,
Mhm.
that makes them more productive, that makes them stay, and that's why we have a better ride together.
Yeah.
And we couldn't do what we do alone. We know
Yeah.
that, and we, as a growing company, we need more allies on our side. We need more people joining us, and that's where like certain the ground rules, of course, are with us, right? and
Mhm.
and sometimes if I would have all the say, and especially here in the US, I tried a very proactive approach until HR came in and said, no, but you cannot do that. The law does not allow certain flexibilities.
Yeah.
And I was not very happy with that. But then again, the law is there to protect the employees too.
Mhm.
And I understand that I cannot just reinvent the wheel or just make my own rules. So I would say that one part is what's legally allowed and required. And see, on the requirements, we're always way beyond what, like, minimum wage and those things. That
Yeah.
was never a question. It's like, what do you mean minimum wage? It's like we
Yeah.
talk
Yeah.
about something else anyway. And then certain flexibilities of like work time, taking breaks, um, and that also depends on the job you have, right? If you
Yeah.
work in a multinational team and your team members are there from 6 to 9 in the morning, then 6 to 9 is the time to work.
Mhm. Yeah.
That might not be great for everybody, and including me. I had to really adjust to that. Getting up early. The
Yeah.
more I have it in my head, the more I do it. I mean, now I do it for 12 years, so it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
Um, the more I'm
Yeah.
happy, I'm happy with it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and it's funny because I think most coffee professionals are morning people. Coffee is obviously a morning drink for the most part.
Right.
But also, I feel like that's an increasingly a cultural trait that's increasing in the. I don't even want to say cultural, but a generational trait, maybe. I don't know. For example, a lot of people in my generation who are self-proclaiming entrepreneurs or have this entrepreneurial mindset, there is this really big trend of like, real entrepreneurs, hard workers wake up early and work or whatever. And it's like, okay, maybe
Yeah.
not to that extreme, but there is a certain truth to that in the sense that like you, you know, we wake up early, we're productive,
Yes.
and we have more to maximize throughout the day,
Absolutely.
right?
So I'm a big believer in an early start.
Okay.
If you start at 6, you have 6 quality hours until noon. And
Mhm.
most people can do that with some coffee, maybe a snack, and maybe a small break in the middle. That's perfect. I know that I can do it, right?
Mhm, mhm.
But then I also like to have a really at least an hour lunch. If I
Mm.
can, maybe 2. That
Yes.
that recharges me. If I can
Yeah.
have a nap, great, even better. It's also the time of day where I feel like, oh, I can get away with it. There's not that the whole team needs me absolutely at that hour, and I also feel like it's not my most productive time of the day anyway.
Mhm. Yeah.
And then I come back, and then I do another few hours, and then it depends. I might stay long or take another longer break in the evening, and then come back before before bed. But that's for example a thing I have done a lot. So 8 to 10. So
Yeah.
basically doing like 6 to 12, 2 to 5, and then 8 to 10.
Okay.
And that 8 to 10 is, I mean, the more I learn about how the brain works and all those things, and the older I get, I think, uh, the less I try to do that. So
Yeah.
I try to disconnect ideally at 6 or 7,
Hmm.
and then not reconnect again, because my brain would totally go into work mode again,
Yeah.
but not rest.
Yeah. Yeah. That's true.
So it's the more we learn and the more we try out, the more we find. And
Yeah.
again, this is not the same for everybody. If you're younger, you can take things differently. If you're older, you might not. But then again, certain habits are, if you want them, if you're a big believer of your 8 to 12 hours, eight to midnight hours, they can be very productive. I had really good rides during those times, but then at 6 in the morning is not a good idea.
Yeah.
And
Um, no, okay. So that makes me think of something, and I'm gonna put you on the spot a little bit. But
right
so
here.
speaking on work hours, for example, in the way you just explained it, that worked for you or for some people, however it is. So recently, you probably read this. Iceland or Finland did a work week study. You've probably heard
Mhm.
about that.
Yes, yes, yes.
Uh, I'm curious to know your thoughts on that. If you what you think about that. And I'm not, just disclaimer. This doesn't mean Cropster is going to go on it, but
Well,
but
I
like,
can. So since I heard about it, and I can also tell you, yes, definitely, we're thinking about it. So Cropster is open to those ideas. We are
hmm
excited. We want to hear more. We want to learn more. But that's where I say we had ideas 5 and more years ago, which then turned out to be culturally not feasible or legally not applicable. So it's
makes sense.
it's not only us telling the world, hey, this is what you should do. It's also what does actually then work with the team you have, with the people you have, what they want. And as I said, there's a cultural aspect to that too. Just because we think this is a great idea, some employees might not think it's a great idea.
Yeah.
So we have to work with how everybody perceives a little bit those things. And sometimes reducing work time, yes, but maybe also reducing salary.
Mm,
So some people might not be willing to do that. Saying, well, no, I still
yeah.
want actually more money. It's like, well, then we have to really see how that can work, and it
hmm
can only work if the economy allows. We're a small company, and I think we try our best, and there's certain our employees have seen growth, but
Yeah.
we're not Google, we're not Apple, or we're not Facebook, which might be they have much deeper pockets and
Yeah.
different business models which generate all that wealth with a fraction of the employees in reality, and they just
Yeah.
spend it on more employees because they can, on more projects because there's the growth opportunities, and on there's a lot of, I would say, there's a lot of dough they can bring into the casino, and then see what
Yeah.
what sticks, what works, um,
Yeah.
and be a little bit more limited on that, of course.
Yeah. But it's also, it's all about perspective as well. The perspective changes for everybody.
Yeah. So coming back to that like Iceland or I think a reduced work week could work again
Hmm.
if it's culturally accepted.
Okay.
When I grew up, working a lot was of high value. My parents grew up in that too. The
Yeah.
US is a little bit more that, like the more you work, the more your self value might grow.
Yeah.
Uh, Suddenly you work less. What does that mean?
Yeah.
What do you do with the other time? Are you then just playing video games, or what is it you can do so you feel still accomplished and like a wholesome person?
Yeah. Yeah.
If you define yourself through work,
Yeah. But,
you
you
know.
know, I think for me though, this is going to contradict what I said earlier, but I think a little bit goes back to passion as well. For
Hmm.
me, and I speak from my perspective because it's obviously what I know and who I am, but I think if you're passionate about something though, in a in a good way,
Hmm.
I don't think like you a 4 hour difference in a work week really is going to be that much of a difference in the sense that like if you're passionate about something, you're going to put the time in to get what you want out of it and to reach the goals you have, whether it takes you 40 hours, 80 hours, legally, of course.
Yes, but see, that's good that you mentioned that, because I do not believe in 80 hours. I also don't believe
Mm,
in 60 hours. So I would say there's a sweet spot to what you
mm-hmm.
can actually do to keep it enjoyable. And I would
Mm,
say, I always said 40 focused and concentrated hours are what I think people should do. And if you're less focused or less concentrated, or just like me, I like to communicate a little bit more, I have no problem to extend it to 50 hours and say, well, let's do 50 hours. It doesn't matter. I can do
okay.
that. Of course, for some, it's legally not in the cards. So I mean, we have to stick with what the government gives us.
Absolutely.
But in terms of, and we're talking only purely about energy, and I think so 40 to 50 hours, I think is healthy.
Mm,
More is potentially not healthy anymore. If you try to have a personal life, if you try to have take care of your body and do some sports or do some exercise, some meditation, some other stuff, it all takes time. If you want to
oh yeah.
cook, and I think with 40 hours you have those options to take care of your family, your body, your health. You can enjoy life and do something which is not meaningful and or has no has no immediate return or anything. Just
Yeah.
just being enjoyable.
Yeah.
So I would say if someone works 60 more hours, I would thought that's a healthy relationship, because something in that mix is not getting the attention it probably should.
Yeah. It leaves you skeptical.
Yes.
But
I
yeah.
mean, again, do it for half a year, do it for a year, maybe do it for 2 years. There's nothing wrong with it. I have done it,
Yeah.
starting a business, and that's what I'm saying. So if you start a business, if you're an entrepreneur, you're not focusing on a 4 hour week, for a 4 day work week or something. This is not your immediate focus. The immediate focus is you have a great idea, you want to bring this to fruition, you want to bring this to people, and that's all you basically think and breathe and do. Um,
And
you know.
also make a living at the end of the day too.
Yeah, and then
When you're
off that make a living,
yeah,
and then of course keeping your relationships intact. To me, that was always
absolutely.
important. Keeping my
Yeah.
friendships, keeping my relationship with my wife. It's if those things go under, I sometimes feel very sad.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's something that's discussed more these days as well. I mean, just goes back to this valuing a work-life balance. Even for me, it's something I'm still learning young. Is prioritizing my day, prioritizing my time with whom, and it's important
Yeah,
because it's balance is like that's what keeps life going.
absolutely. And yeah, also some other parts of life are effort, and
Yeah,
relationships are effort. Healthy living is effort, and work, and that's the intriguing part, can be very rewarding, and you can be very passionate about it, so you go full in, and that's where you derive all the good vibes and all the self-worth and all that, and then you invest less in the other part of life, which then becomes less rewarding automatically, and that's where those tricky
yeah,
dynamics start. And
yeah, yeah,
as long as we have those consciously reflected on, and we are reminded that this can happen, it's all good. We can all change, we can all adapt, and that's most important. We are not stuck in what we because, oh no, I have these responsibilities, I cannot, like, that's not true. You can always share responsibility. There's always someone else. And then again, sometimes you have to say no, and sometimes you have to forgo great opportunities, something which might be your future, well, something else will appear. So you have to find
Yeah.
that relaxed spot in life, I think, where you say, well, push hard, take opportunities, of course, create opportunities also, but not everything is absolutely and always important.
Yeah, definitely. Well, you know what, Norbert? I think that's a very good note to end on.
Yes.
Thank, thanks a lot, man. I appreciate it.
Sure. Thank you, Nick.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Coffee and Technology Podcast brought to you by Cropster. If you enjoyed what you heard, please subscribe or give us a follow on any of our channels to always get the latest episode. If you're interested in more educational content on all things coffee and tech, be sure to head to cropster.com/learn or visit our YouTube channel. Cheers to more coffee.